exchange, then things are much better than if I just give you a lecture and then you can ask me your question in private, because I may not know the answer, but somebody in this room is able to either comfort or shed some light or give information on what's going on. So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm going to ask this because a lot of people are comfortable with prayer, and a lot of people are not. So if you're okay with me praying, just if you're not, let me know now, because I would like to move into prayer. Because I really believe that every change that takes place is already ordained. And there's a solution to it. It's like math, 2 + 2 = 4. Every emotional, every life, every person that exists has a cycle. And there's a length of time. The book of Ecclesiastes says that there's a time and a place for every purpose under the sun. And I think we're kind of under the sun. So if we know that as a foundation, because a lot of times you can have conversations, but I find that people are speaking from their dictionary and I'm speaking from mine, and mine is based on my experience. What have I seen? What have I done? And what my mama said, and what my daddy did, and what or didn't do in a lot of cases. So it's really important to be able to say, look, this is what I know, this is how I see it, because it's almost like an iceberg of emotion. And I feel and loss and pain is basically saying, okay, how do I cope? What are my solutions? I'm doing a grief recovery study myself, preparing to teach it, because grief is loss of anything, loss of childhood, loss of the things that you didn't get as a child. And oftentimes we need others to reflect for us how to manage it and to teach us the tools that work for them so that those tools can be utilized. We can take them and do with it what we want to, okay? So feel free, if you don't want me to pray, speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay, I need permission here. All right. Father, we love you so much. Mother God, we love you so much. We understand that you are not just a masculine God, but you have no gender, and that's difficult for us to understand sometimes. But I thank you that you've already prepared each of us for the moments that we encounter on a daily basis. You have already mapped it out like you did our DNA, so we look like and act like that which was included. So I thank you for our spiritual DNA this morning. I thank you for the DNA of our soul, which consists of our mind, our intellect, our personality, our emotions, and our will. I thank you that we are chosen to be here today because we want to hear and know the solutions that are valuable to us. And if we don't get them here today, we will continue to pursue because we know that you've already answered every question that we have. We just have to position ourselves to receive it. And if you're in agreement with their prayer, please say amen. Amen. Twisting up my words. But basically, it's exciting to me to understand that yesterday I've had a lot of experience with cancer. My sister, I'm not a survivor, but as a family member of a survivor, you're a survivor. We're all in this together, and it's related. Everything is related. So the question becomes, how did they handle it? My sister, who was once vice president of Urban League, that's how I met Rhonda, she died with lung cancer. And she was in remission for a while. And yet, her mind, and I believe that there's things in our head, in our mind, that keep, psychologists call it triggering behavior that does not support our healing. Because we haven't learned what is the way to healing. How do I get out of this? First, I accept it. You know, they have like 6 steps of grief and recovery. And so I said, okay, so basically what is recovery? That means getting rid of pain. You set it up. How do I come out of the pain? How do I manage the pain? How do I let somebody else deal with it that is more qualified than me, that's not in the same pain I'm in at the same moment? Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, because we're all going through whatever we're going through. And your pain is just as real as mine is. But pain should not drive us. If we've been given a promise for a healthy life, and we're doing everything we can to make it work, then we need to expect it to work. Okay? I like feedback. So yeah, you crazy. I don't know what you do. But I'm okay with that. And I try to bring enough humor in here. But believe me, this is a serious matter. So don't think I'm taking it lightly. But I know that a lot of times we can get so stuck. Because I was a teenage mom, and, you know, just lots of things when we get caught up in it. And when my sister died, her son, who's now motherless and fatherless, I have to minister to him regularly. And that is, what are your expectations? Anybody in here? You expect to get out of pain, because that's what you said. You jumped right on it, so thank you for that.
I'm experiencing what you just said. I just lost my sister to cancer, and she and I was super duper tight. And I cared for her for 2 years that she was going through it.
So you watched it.
Yes.
And during that time, your losses were real, because you could see them. Sometimes losses are not tangible and we can't see them. But oftentimes, if we just look, we can see them. We can then begin to say, okay, how do I handle this? You have to be strong for her. You have to be there with a smile, even when you got tears behind the smile, and even if they came together. Because when we have affection one for another and emotions, we have feelings. And remember, our soul, which is the part of us that really is us. That makes me from you, me from you. Every one of us has a soul. Tripart being. We are a spirit. That's our identity. We have a soul, which consists again of, I call it mind. So you pick an acronym to remember: mind, intellect, personality, emotions. And the most difficult one to manage is the emotions. Because whenever you have a loss, you're on a roller coaster. Okay, how do I do? What do I do now? What do I put in this place? Even a lot of parents with empty nest. You know, when the kids grow up and they gone, I've seen more marriages break up when the kids leave, or when the husband retires, or when he comes home and now he's home all the time and you've had the house all to yourself, and it's like he's here every day. Now, what am I going to do with this? And how am I going to manage it? I can tell from the laughter. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm counseling a couple right now. He worked and he was gone all the time, and now he's home. And my girl said, look, I'm about to get a divorce, but this man dropped me. And I'm like, that's not grounds for divorce. She said, in your book, man. But this is my book we're talking about. Are y'all tracking with me? Yep. And so I understand that change, remember, any change is a loss. Whatever change in pattern, change in any interruption in your life, and where it came from. How do I manage it? Well, the first thing I have to do is know who I am. Who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? I'm reminded of another couple I was counseling. They had been married 40-something years. And we played the newlywed game. And we asked him, what was her idea of a night on the town? And he said, sitting in the bed with popcorn, looking at a movie with me. And she was so angry. She was like, you're crazy. Have I been with you all this time? And you don't know anything about me. But she knew everything about him. She knew what he liked. She knew what he didn't like. She got all her answers right. He got all his answers wrong. So oftentimes we're in relationships with people, but we don't know how they really feel about us. We don't know what they're really thinking. And if you're like me, you were raised as a woman, you know, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. Yeah, right. But when do I get a turn? When do I get to say what I need to say? Because we're the underdog a lot of times. And basically, I need to count. I need to know that I'm here. I love Gladys Knight's song when she said, I need to be more than just a reflection of a man. I need my very own spot to stand. Now, I'm not a feminist, so don't get it twisted. But I know that our existence is important, and if we don't feed it, if we don't understand who we are, what we like, we've just waited all of our lives to be nurtured, to be cared for, to be spoken to be talked about, then we don't, I'm just waking up, I'm almost 70. He's 70 and old, in fact. But the point is, I never really knew who I was. That's why I did. What do I like? Am I afraid to tell people what I like? Because they may or may not continue to do what I need them to do. We trained in the workplace, and every workplace I've been in has been predominantly male. So that means I'm the only girl, sometimes the only girl, the only black, and sometimes the only girl, the only black, and the only person under 50 in the workplace. So what do? You scared to death all the time because you don't know if I'm really me. What's gonna happen? Will I get fired? You know the rules, so you keep them. But that's a loss of who you are and your identity. There's a book that I've read and I recommend it to everybody. And it's written by a gentleman named John Bradshaw. He's a doctor. But the irony of his existence was that he was a Catholic priest in the daytime and an alcoholic at night because he was in so much pain. And even though he was supposedly spiritually in charge of his life and his choices, he wasn't at night because he had to deal with the pain, and that he didn't know how to deal with it except to sedate it. As it turned out, his parents were alcoholics. So we've got that thing coming from the past and what we inherited and what we've seen as normal in our upbringing. But the title of his book is called The Family. Simple. But it is one of the most profound books that I've ever read. I've read a bunch of books. But the reason I like it so much is because he explains to us what our family structure and what our family background does to shape us, and how our behavior, which we get more training from the modeling that's around us in the environment. Because if you grew up in a house where your grandmama cooked, but you learned how to cook. If she was a cleaner, you learned how to clean. But in my house, I wasn't a cook or a cleaner. I was the student. So I grew up reading all the time. I always wanted to go somewhere. I always wanted to do something different. In fact, I can go all the way back to junior high when I did a project on the national parks. And one of the reasons I was coming to California when I left Tennessee was so I could go to Yellowstone, so I could go to the national parks. Because to me, in my head, it was a reason to fight through whatever I had to fight through to get where I was going. Are y'all with me? So I don't know how many of you have ever thought about, but let's just take a moment and let's think about what is it that's unfulfilled in you? Because I've done everything professionally. I've had everything material. But just to be accepted for me, I haven't had, because I didn't really know who I was. And that's one of the things that Bradshaw said, that all of us have caregivers. And the caregivers shape us based on who they are and what they know and what they've done. And rarely do we get a chance to just be raggedy, crazy, whatever. Does that make sense as far as behavior is concerned? So it's really important that you know who you are, your identity. And what is my identity? Well, now I can tell you where I couldn't tell you before. I used to say, well, I'm an accountant, I'm a preacher, got a doctorate in this and a master's in this. But now I understand I'm a person, a real, honest to God person that deserves and expects respect, because I'm going to give it. And if I don't get it, I know how to say no. I know how to get out. I've not been to that place long. So, because a lot of times we absorb things, and particularly as women, we just take it because it's just easier. You get tired of fighting. Yeah, especially African American women. You know, we have our share of battles. But I've written a book, and in the book, I just talked about it yesterday. The book was really about the church, but it talked about females in leadership and how most of us, whether we were in leadership in the marketplace or not, we're leaders in our homes. And that means whatever we do is affecting not only us, but it's affecting everybody else in the household. And how do we manage to get through it? Well, I have a word that I really love. Oh, hey, Arlene, I just saw you sitting back there. She lives in my building. Is how do I identify who I am? And what if I like something that my friends don't like? Because peer pressure kicks in junior high. And that is the strongest influence other than your family as you begin to grow up and to live. Who am I really? Have you ever asked yourself that question? What do I really like? You have? And how comfortable did you feel with it initially? Yes, ma'am. You said yes, and you did too, so I won't both you out of time.
Who am I?
Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm a strong lady.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know who I am because I tend to do, I really don't, I'm not concerned about what other people think.
Oh, okay. So you're independent, so to speak. Okay. Very good. And you? The question was, who are you? If I ask who you are, and if I ask, you know, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. But you said yes, so I thought maybe you had something behind it. Whenever I hear people make comments, I think, okay, this is the surface. What's underneath comments? What are the thoughts they got underneath? What's the training? What's the exposure? What's the travel? What is it that they went through in order to know what they like, what they don't like, who they are, what they're going to take, and what they're not going to take? Okay. Uh-oh. She said something over there. So, you want to respond or no?
I can respond.
Okay.
This is just me.
Yeah.
So, it took me a long time to realize, because I'm a Christian woman, it took a long time to realize that I'm not my own. So a lot of my, sometimes our fight is, like you said, I agree with what you said, trying to be our own, but, when you become a Christian, you give up your thoughts to take on His way. So I had to, I kept trying to fight to be what I wanted to be, which was against what He wanted me to be. And so once I learned to stop fighting to be what I wanted to be, surrender. Yeah, surrender. Because what I wanted to be, it ain't always right. But sometimes it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The flesh knows how to do that.
It was fun. Yeah. Fun and joy is two different things.
Exactly.
But I found joy in doing it His way. And so sometimes I got to a point where I always defended the fact that I was learning to do it His way. And then, you try not to be so deep or whatever, so sometimes you go back to being the way you want to be. And now I've learned to rest. Yeah, I've learned to rest in. I'm learning to be how He wants me to be, and I'm learning to find out who I am through His word. Because I don't know who I am, I learn who I am through His word. And as I get a relationship with Him, He teaches me what He created me to be. And as I spend more time with Him and I find out that I'm His likeness and His image, and I get that mirror reflection of Him in me, I learn to drop off some things, and I realize it's okay that you don't understand. Because I wasn't created for your pleasure. I was created for His.
When y'all sat next to each other, sound like y'all alike.
But I'm learning, like you said, it's a process.
Learning. It's a process.
And in that process, you get angry because you want to be. Sometimes I want to cuss you out.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course. I really want to.
Because I get pleasure out of that, but not joy.
Right. But it's not who He designed and created me to be. So learning to go against what I want and resting Because that's who I am.
And that's a loss.
It is, it's a
And
loss.
when you lose it, you have to learn how to manage life without it. Perfect example. Somebody who's not a Christian in here that may have another way. Because I'm a Christian, but everybody's not. And I understand that. And everybody doesn't understand what God wants them to be and doesn't understand that God wants them to be anything. You know, I'm just me. Come on, Mom.
I'm working at that.
She got her hat on. She rolling.
I'm working at that. I realized one thing many years ago. I came from a large family, and I refused to have a lot of kids. So when I had that one, I had a miscarriage. I had one, and I said I won't come back that out anymore. So I immediately had my tubes tied at 21. It was very hard to find people to do that, but I did. And as time went on, I realized that when God has a journey for you, you will be on this journey. And this journey was for me to be a foster parent, to raise 6, 7 boys really out there. In the process of doing that, I became an advocate for children. Don't even like children. But as my people that I deal with, they say to me, Mrs. Compton, don't worry about what you like. Those kids like you. Okay? So I found out that, you know, I'm very aggressive, opinionated, got an attitude, don't trust people, and if you lie to me, it's over for you.
Oh my God.
So I go to church.
Unforgiving, huh?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm not. I'm working on that.
Okay.
And I go to church to try to change who I am to be a better person. I want to stop doing what I do. I'm an advocate for kids with special needs. Now that I have special needs, I kind of understand that you have to walk in people's shoes in order to understand the route that they're going. So I go to Bible study on Wednesday, so the ladies at Bible study can help me realize that I need to make some changes. I'm making the changes. I don't like that person. I don't like her. She's very,
Which is really irrelevant. She's
Yeah.
different than me.
yeah, I don't like her.
Yeah.
But I gotta be that person because
Right.
number one, I have to calm my body down. And I realized that one thing with cancer, you can't be frustrated. You have to be calm. So I'm dealing with that, but and every time I want to stop this journey that I'm on, I talk to God about it. And then God sends somebody to me to say, well, Miss Copeland, thank you for doing what you did.
Right.
So I assume then that
I'm on the right track.
yeah. Yeah, but they say God sends people other, because I was thinking God was going to talk to me. Some people say, no, he said people to talk to me.
You like a preacher. We can't give you the mic. You've been sitting here wanting to say it. Yeah.
I just realized, I'm finishing up a book by Joseph Prince called Live the Let Go Life.
Okay.
And all of my life, I've been a people pleaser. And I just realized I've just been a roller coaster of uncertainties. And just, it goes way back from my mom dying when I was a very small child and just kind of finding myself wandering. And so whatever somebody else wanted or I thought they wanted, that's what I did. So I'm trying to take back my life now, and then a lot of things you said just kind of fit me to the T. And I'm a Christian, but sometimes I fail. Like Wednesday, the Uber driver, a Mexican guy called me a nigger. So I lost it. And it was just, so the person that I'm trying to be,
You're becoming.
I'm becoming that person, but I know, and I talked to God about it, and I said, I'm the person that you need, and so just change me, make me what I need to be.
And stop me from hitting this mess.
So
Because I really want to hit it.
I just took my seatbelt off, and I was on the right side. I'm not gonna get it.
And that's the pain, which is where we started. And with pain, we wind up, and I don't mean to cut you off, but they gave me a limited time. I'm gonna leave my card. Anybody that wants to talk to me, please feel free to. Because what I would like to do, and I know you guys are offering your organization, is just foster some support groups in our community where you can just be you. And whatever that is, the good, the bad, the ugly, the raggedy, that which looks all polished up and clean, on the inside, we're in pain. And a lot of times when we're in pain, we don't know how to manage the pain and still function, period. Some people get depressed. My son got killed right quick. And when he got murdered, I was sharing this with a lady of another persuasion. And she said, oh, my son died and I stayed in bed for a whole year. As if I stayed in bed for a whole year, I'd be in my grave. I didn't have a choice. So oftentimes, we're stronger because we didn't have a choice. You can you lay in the bed and you and be okay? Now I know I couldn't. I don't miss somebody in here maybe ain't. But I want to hear from one lady who she's got a look on her face that I just believe she has something she would share with us. Will she? What's your name? She's looking at me like, are you talking to me? Yes, ma'am. You talking to me? You? Yes. Rhonda, give me my time constraints because you know me.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Got it.
Well,
You're
you did
thinking, I
ask the
see your
question.
brain going.
Well, I'm listening to things and I'm relating to it. The lady in the front there that mentioned, her mother passed away, she was very young. And so did mine. And under not so, nice circumstances, I always hear a lot of criticism of suicide. And that's all I really know about her. And so,
You don't know her pain. You have no idea.
nobody knows it. Nobody knows it. But like you, I was always trying to be nice to other people. Just automatically, the best case for yourself with the homework.
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked.
Okay. Still working?